Hi everyone, hope you all are good. We are here for grade 10 math. You can find all the lessons on aplusstudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password as provided by the administrator. There you can find a list of the chapters we're going to there just select the math from the subject tab and scroll down to grade 10 math. There you can find a list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter logic. The lessons we're going to cover today are converse, inverse, and contrapositives, biconditionals, truth tables, and truth values. Please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you get important examples. So here I am on grade math. Chapter we are on right now is logic. Let's just start with the first lesson, that is converses, inverses, and contrapositives. Look at the following conditionals. If Dakota is going to eat chestnut, then it's not Saturday. If Dakota is not going to eat chestnut, then it is Sunday. In is the second conditional the inverse, contrapositive, or converse of the following conditional. So the second one is the inverse of the first one. The hypothesis and the conditionals are negation, right? In the second one. So the second one is the inverse of the first one. Okay, let's just start with the test questions. Look at the following conditionals. If Anita is near the Fulton Street, then she is at home. If Anita is at home, then she is near Fulton Street. In the second conditional, the inverse, contrapositive, or converse of the first conditional. That is the converse of the first statement. Option number three is the correct option. Converse. What is the converse of the following conditional? If Brain is going grocery shopping for dinner, then he is not going to buy gumdrops. We need to find the converse of this one. If Brain is not going to buy gumdrops, then he is going grocery shopping for dinner. Option number two is the correct option. Look at the look at the following conditionals. If Jennifer does not need a basin, then she is not going to take the music class. If Jennifer is going to take music lessons, then she needs a basin. So, which is the correct option? If Jennifer does not need a basin, then she is not going to take music class. And if Jennifer is going to take, then with that they are the inverse of each other. Option number one is the correct option. Contrapositive. Okay, if you take the first conditional and switch the order of the hypothesis and conclusion and negate them both, you will get the second conditional. If Jennifer does not need a basin, then she is not going. Since the hypothesis and conclusions are switched and negated, the second conditional is the contrapositive of the first conditional. That is the contrapositive. Option number two is the correct option. Look at the following conditionals. If Dakota is going to eat chestnuts, then this is not Saturday. If Dakota is not going to eat chestnut, then it is Saturday. Is the second conditional the inverse, contrapositive, or converse of the first conditional? That is the inverse option number one is the correct option. Inverse it is. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself. Let me just move on to next lesson. The next one is biconditionals. Is the following statement biconditional? If Susan is going to a work site, then she is bringing a level. Look at the given statement. If Susan is going to work site, then she is bringing a level. A biconditional says that both are conditional and its converse are true. The given statement is only a conditional, but not biconditional. So this is not a biconditional. Is the following statement biconditional? Sadie smiles if and only if she sees clown perform. Look at the given statement. Sadie smiles if and only if she sees clowns perform. The given statement is a biconditional because it is equivalent to following two statements. If Sadie smiles, then she sees clown perform. If Sadie sees clown perform, then she smiles. So that is the biconditional. Let's just start with the test questions. Is the following statement a biconditional? Kathleen is playing a guitar if and only if Grace is playing a snare drum. So yes, that is the biconditional. Like Kathleen is playing a guitar if Grace is playing a snare drum. And same way, if Grace is playing a snare drum, Kathleen is playing a guitar. The correct option is yes. Hold on. Okay, let me just see what happened. Okay, so logic we're working on. And biconditionals and test. Okay, is the following conditional by statement? Kathleen is playing a guitar. Yes, that would be a biconditional. Yes, it is. What's wrong with this lesson? Okay, let's just start with the lesson truth tables. Complete the truth table. Fill in the third column. So we are given the two columns Q and R. The third one that is Q or R, right? This or. So if two of them, if either of them is true, that means true it is, right? So Q or R. So if one of them is true, the Q or R is true, right? So the one in which Q and R both are false, the answer is false. Let's just start with the test questions. Complete the truth table. We are given the columns R, S, negation of R, S or negation of R, S or negation of R or S. So this column S or negation R and S. So this column is the OR of these two columns. True, true, true. False, true, and true. So they both are true. Option number one is the correct option. That is true and true. Option number one is the correct option. Complete the truth table. So Q, R, S, S and Q, that is N. And now the last column is R or S and Q. So false, true, so true. So false and false is false. So option number two is the correct option, that is true and false. Option number three is the correct option. Complete the truth table. R or Q and P. R or true, true, true. False, true, true. So they both are true. Option number two is the correct option. Option number two is the correct option. Complete the truth table. Negation of S and R. So true, true, true. False, false, false. And false, true, false. So option number one is the correct option. That is true, false, false. Option number one is the correct option. Complete the truth table. Negation of P or Q. That is P or Q. Negation true, false, false, and true. That is false, false, and true. Option number one is the correct option. Option number one is the correct option. That is false, false, and true. Complete the truth table. Q and negation of P. True, false, 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 and false, true, false. Option number two is the correct option. They both are false. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move to next lesson. The next lesson is truth values. If Q is false, what is the value of Q and Q? If Q is false, then Q and Q is also false. Let's just start with the test questions. If Q is false and R is true, what is the truth value of Q and negation of R? R is true. So then negation of R is false. Negation of R is false. Q is false and negation of R is false. So false and false is false. Option number two is the correct option. False it is. If Q is false, R is true. What is the truth value of Q and R? So false and true is false. Option number 2 is the correct option. Sorry, false or Q is or it is. So true. Option number 1 is the correct option, true. If R is true and S is true, what is the truth value of R and S? Both R and S are true. Option number 1 is the correct option. If S is false, what is the truth value of negation of S? If S is false, negation of S is true. Option number 1 is the correct option. If Q is false, what is the truth value of Q or Q? False. Option 2 is the correct option. If Q is true and Q is false, P is true and Q is false, what is the truth value of P and Q? So P and Q is false. Option number 2 is the correct option. If R is false, what is the truth value of negation of R? Negation of R is true. Option number 1 is the correct option. If Q is true, what is the truth value of negation of Q? Negation of Q is false. Option 2 is the correct option. If P is false, Q is false. What is the truth value of Q and Q? Q or Q? They both are false. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So we were working on grade 10 math. Chapter we were working on is the lesson logic. The lessons we have covered today are converses, inverses, and contrapositives, biconditionals, then truth tables and truth values. So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just did. That is your homework until next session. So if you need more help with any of the lessons, you can simply click on the live chat button. Tutors are available there to help you, or either you can write them down in the chat box. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. Okay, then that's all for today. See you in the next session. Bye, everyone. But why I can't see any of your comments from my phone?